Hi, everybody. Welcome to the J. Warren McClure School of Emerging Communication Technologies. You'll hear the acronym ECT used quite a bit. I hope you're watching this video because you're either interested in one of the degrees we offer or you're trying to refresh your memory on things we talked about previously, hopefully in real time. If you're here because we weren't available to serve you real time during student orientation, I apologize. We really are hoping to reach everyone during an actual live session, but even in that case, I hope you'll find this useful. If you're here for general information, understand that this video addresses mostly concerns for incoming students. So it won't cover all of the aspects of the degrees. It'll focus on how to get started into the degree programs. So again, welcome to our school. We offer two degrees. One, the Information and Telecommunication Systems degree that's housed entirely in the McClure School. We also offer the Games Animation degree in collaboration with the School of Media. The School of Media has most of the faculty that teach general media production. They teach the animation program, and the faculty in our school teach the game design and the virtual reality classes. The Grid Lab, and you see an image of that on the screen right now, the Grid Lab is part of the McClure School as well. So to follow along in this video, especially if you're watching this on a smaller device, or you want to get a hold of the actual information I'm going to show you, the school homepage is at www.ohio.edu/McClure, MCCLURE. And specifically, the information we're going to go over here in the next few minutes is on the page www.ohio.edu/McClure/BSO. You can also get there by clicking the BSO button on our homepage. So a couple things before we get started talking about the degrees themselves. And later on in the video, when I talk about the individual degrees, I'll go into a little bit more background. Right now, the focus is going to be more on getting you started as an Ohio University student. But before we get there, a couple ways to connect with us other than email, which is always good. The faculty and staff of the school are very good at responding to email. So reach out to us with questions, concerns you want to get a hold of us. But we also have a couple other ways that you might find interesting. For a little bit more informal and sort of ad hoc communication, we have a Discord server, and you can see. Here on the screen, you can see the invite link. So if you hop over to that page and follow the invite link, you can join our Discord server. There's a channel for Bobcat student orientation, so that's your main interest. Hop in there and you can chat with us there. Introduce yourselves in the general channel. You're kind of restricted on how often you post in there. But introduce yourselves, and then once you figure out who you are, we'll assign an appropriate role to you. Also, if you're either as part of your degree or just personally, if you have an interest in esports, please join the Bobcat Esports Discord server. That's the umbrella student organization that houses all of the esports teams and esports activities. We've got lots of exciting news coming up over the summer and going into the fall. So by all means, jump on there, and there's a channel in there where you can identify what platforms and what games you're interested in, and they'll kind of get you slotted in there as well. Okay, so the first steps as an Ohio University student are the same no matter what degree you're headed into. So let's take a look at some of these, and there's some graphics here just in a moment where I can show you a little bit more about that. So first off, we highly recommend learning communities. What is that? Learning community simply means that you take a group of classes together with a small group of other students, somewhere around 20 other students or so. And that means that in those 2 or 3 classes, which is not your entire schedule, but in those 2 or 3 classes, if you look around the class, and it's one of your first classes you've ever taken at a high university. You look around and you'll see some faces that you're already familiar with from your learning community. This doesn't mean you're living together. You're not living in the same dorms. This is just a way to get you some meaningful classes very efficiently. And at the same time, we'll also put you in those classes, in those class sections, together with some students that you get to know throughout the course of the semester. And then in addition to that, you get like a 1 credit hour additional seminar, and that additional seminar it will give you just a weekly touch point. You'll be meeting with a faculty member, an upper class student, and we'll go over all sorts of issues that we'll hope will be of interest to you as you make your way through your first semester. Every student at a high university fulfills the same general education requirements. Doesn't matter what major you're in. So let's talk about those next. General education, there's a couple of components to it. We're only going to talk about part of it. There are a couple of components you start on right away. And they're called Tier 1, 2, and 3. We'll get used to that as we go. But right now, let's talk about the Tier 1. Tier 1 consists of a basic English requirement and a basic math requirement. You may already have those from AP or College Credit Plus, so please check with us before as you go about registering. But you have to have a basic English composition class, and you have a basic math class. In English composition, you really don't have to make a decision about the class. Depending on the major you're in, you will sign up for that class either in the fall semester or the spring semester, and we'll tell you which one you're assigned to. With math, you do have to make a bit of a decision, and it depends on your major and it depends on what you want to do. And I'll do this by way of these 2 diagrams here that are specific to the 2. Let me get my browser to cooperate here. That are specific to the 2 majors we're talking about. As an information telecommunication systems major, you're required to take statistics. That's this block up here, set that is labeled goal, right there. So as an ITS major, you have to take statistics, you have to take economics, which means you have to have either math placement level 2 or 3, or placement level 1 and take college algebra, math 1200. If you're in the games animation major, things are a little bit more interesting in the sense that you have more choices. If you think you're headed for content creation, you're headed for kind of the more the planning aspects of game design and VR production, maybe more of the sound work in games and VR, then by all means fulfill your Tier 1 requirement if you don't have it already. Fulfill it with quantitative reasoning, which is that Math 1060 class. But be aware that if you're interested in doing either game design, we recommend you take statistics, although you're not required to. Or if you're trying to take, for example, an ITS minor or do some computer science classes as part of your game design degree, you also need college algebra. So if you don't already have credit for college algebra or something equivalent, you need to kind of think that through and decide whether you go for Math 1200 or you go for Math 1060. Next area we're going to talk about is Tier 2. And those are topical areas. Basically, what we want to do early in your college career here, we want you to take classes from 6 different areas. to get a nice broad background of various topics. And some of these may be related to your major, many of them will not be. This is general for everybody. So you can see the 6 areas here: applied science and math, cross-cultural perspectives, fine arts, humanities, literature, natural sciences, and social sciences. There are some quirks with classes that have non-standard numbers of credit hours, but for the purposes today, let's just assume you have to take one class in each of these 6 areas. So 6 classes, 1 in each area, plus a 7th class that can double up on any one area. So pretty simple so far, right? You'll see in a moment when we start talking about the individual degrees that some classes that you either will most likely take to fulfill your degree, or classes that you're required to take to fulfill your degree also fulfill some of these requirements. If that's the case, you want to be efficient and not take classes that triple up or take that take classes in an area that you already covered if you don't need that to double up in that area. So we want you to be efficient, and so we'll have more conversations about that when we look at the individual degrees, because the circumstances differ just a little bit for those two. All right, so before we move on to more details, let's take a look at the structure of the 2 degrees that we cover, the Information and Communication Systems degree, and it's called the VR curriculum here, the Games Animation degree, with or without a focus on virtual reality. Notice that both degrees have those green blocks. That's your general education. And we haven't talked about the more advanced ones, these kind of advanced from bottom to top. And we've only talked about the 2 bottom blocks just now. And that's all you really need information on at this moment. Once you're here, once you work with your permanent advisor, we'll go through all of the other things in a lot more detail. But notice that the rest of the degrees have some fairly similar structures, right? So there are some core courses that are required for everybody. There may be some electives built into the core itself. So like in the ITS degree, you can see the 2 sort of orange blocks, one that are the core classes, those you have to take, and then you choose additional electives. And then next to that is a block of classes that are either your choice with advisor approval, or that are prescribed classes but outside of your core courses. So for example, the Information Telecommunication Systems degree requires a business minor, and the Games and Animation degree is a little bit more flexible in the sense that it also has a number of hours that you take outside the major, but you have more choices there as to how you want to spend those hours. But notice that the degrees are pretty similar. So where does that leave us for today, for now, as you're watching this video trying to get ready to start your career here at our university in the fall? What it means is that your focus for fall registration is going to be get a class that gets you started in your major, and we have one basic picked out for you in each case, and work through some of your general education requirements. And at that point, you're in pretty good shape. You get here, you have a meaningful schedule, you meet with an advisor when you get here, and we'll work out everything else. So this is the general information. And we're now going to go in and talk about each of the 2 degrees in more detail. All right. So we're now going to jump into the Information and Telecommunication Systems curriculum by following the link. If your interest is in the Games Animation degree, there'll be a timestamp below in the notes, so you can fast forward to the degree that you're interested in. All right. So for the Information Telecommunication Systems degree students, Um, there, one thing you'll notice very quickly is there are not very many of you. Some of that has to do with the fact that while the job market for ITS is really, really good, your chances of getting a job in the field are really good. There's not a ton of these jobs. So a company with a couple hundred employees very likely will have a very small number, 2 or 3 or 4 IT specialists. So compared to your general productivity, information worker, creative, there aren't very many IT people. So the number of people in the degree are relatively small to begin with, and then most of them come into the degree as transfer students. So because there's so few of you coming in as freshmen, there's not a dedicated learning community. We'll fix that in just a moment. And as we said in the general introduction, we're going to focus on here is get you into your tier 2 classes, that's meaningful ones. And we'll also look at kind of an overall sort of 4-year plan of study, just to give you a general idea of what this might look like, to give you some outlook as to where you're headed. This sort of pseudo learning community that we're going to create for you, you're going to have to register for these classes one at a time. What we're going to suggest is that you take ITS 2300 as the first class in your major. And the class number is shown there, so it's really easy for you to get it added. There are labs attached to ITS 2300. Anytime you sign up for a lab class that has an attached lab, basically a dialog will pop up and ask you to pick a lab. So do that here. Sign up for public speaking, comms 1030. There are many, many sections. Pick one that kind of suits you in terms of time. Next thing to do is check whether or not you already have Tier 1 English or English 1510 Writing and Rhetoric credit. You may have that if you took an AP exam. You may have that if you took a College Credit Plus course. If you don't, sign up for a section of 1510 in the fall. And we've set up a special studies section, ITS 4930. There's a class number there, 13861. Sign up for that, and that will give you a placeholder on your schedule for a 1-hour meetup with a faculty member and some students will bring in. Pretty much what would happen in a more formal learning community. So we're trying to kind of duplicate the same thing here. Kind of a side note, when you try to add ITS 4930, you'll get a pop-up telling you that you need to ask for permission. That may happen in other places. So here's kind of a bit of inside information. In general, when you register for BSO, anytime you get that pop-up saying you need to ask for permission, don't do that. The instructor won't know who you are. It'll get really confusing. There are other ways through your BSO advisor, your orientation leader, to get permission for a class that you should be in, but you can't for some reason get into. This class is the one and the only one exception to that. This class, go ahead and request permission, and Dr. Aras, who teaches that class, will pretty quickly approve that, and you'll be set. So let's assume for a minute that you did need the English class. That means you have, in addition to that 1 hour special studies, you have 3 classes in your schedule. So you need 2 more. You might need a third one if you didn't need the English. So what we want to do is have you look for Tier 2 options. So let's take a look at your Tier 2 strategies here. I'm going to leave it right here. So there are the 6 areas again. There are a couple of places where the ITS curriculum will already require that you take a particular class. So, and those are right here, the public speaking class you have just hopefully signed up for, and 2 economics classes, which will fit into social science. In fact, they'll double up social sciences. So you want to focus on applied science, cross-cultural perspectives, fine arts, and natural sciences, and you do not want to double up on any one of them because you're already doubling up on social sciences. For this fall, we're recommending that you look at cross-cultural perspective, CP, and natural sciences first. The reason being that we think you have some options later on in both fine arts and applied sciences that you might find interesting, but they're not available this fall. So in applied sciences, if you're interested in virtual reality at all, there's a virtual reality introductory course. It's full in the fall, at least it is right now. But we would recommend that maybe you try to take that later on. And again, if you're interested in any sort of visual arts, the visual storytelling class, easy for me to say, that is part of the games animation major, is also a tier 2, and you might find that interesting. If you don't, then you can basically pick any fine arts class. So your strategy listed at the top of the page is that you want to look, we suggest you look in cross-cultural perspectives and natural sciences first, and then explore if you need more classes or you couldn't find anything there that you found terribly interesting, then explore applied sciences and fine arts for options other than the ones listed here. Now, in this video, you see there aren't any recommendations in here yet. Hopefully, by the time you watch this video, this page will be updated as classes fill and classes come about. So, I encourage you to go to go to our website after you've watched this video and look and see if there are any recommendations on the page for you to look for. But otherwise, look in those areas to find classes to pursue. Okay, so at the bottom of the page, there are actually 2 plans of study linked because they're so similar. I'm only going to follow one of these links. The only difference between the 2 is your math placement level, because it determines where you start, what classes you have to take first. So let's take a look at the one with math placement 1. If your placement is 2, use the other one. As I said, the changes are minor, but it'll show you in a completely analogous way what classes you should be taking, what order. If you're in a DV or developmental level, talk to one of us. You can certainly take the developmental math class if that's what you want to do. Oftentimes, depending on how you ended up with a DV placement, a better approach oftentimes is to take the placement exam again and get it to level 1, and you're generally better off doing that. So with that said, let's jump into the plan of study. Right, so before I get into this in a lot of detail, let me point out that nobody ever follows a four-year plan of study developed before they came in as freshmen. There are just too many places where there's an interesting class you want to take and you put something off, or you get a chance to take something early because a friend of yours is taking it. No big deal. This gives you just a flow of how classes should proceed. And in a moment, we'll focus on the kind of the first year, but you can see that, if you kind of look over over where we're at here, you can sort of see that we start with the 2 introductory courses in the major. You finish up a lot of your general education and tier 1 requirements, your English requirements. And then you start getting into electives, more ITS classes, some of the classes that make up the business minor. You take economics and kind of work your way through. And then once you get into your third year, now you find that you have some freedom. Obviously, you can you continue to work on your electives within the major, but you also have an area of concentration, meaning classes outside the major that you can choose. Your advisor approves, and then you take those. And you also have some entirely free electives, which you have to take to get to the 120 hours required for graduation. but they're not. There's no specific requirements. So you have a few classes where you can just freely explore and take classes that you just find interesting. And at the bottom of the page are some examples of areas of concentration. Two popular ones right now are MIS, Management Information Systems, and there are the classes listed that you would choose from for that, and virtual reality. And you can, again, there are the choices that you would make to complete that. Now, having said that, let's jump into more closely your initial semester here. Bring up a little more. There we go. So again, this recaps what we just talked about. Sign up for 2300, the data communications class with its lab, public speaking, the special studies, so you can get that touch point that's kind of equivalent to the learning community. If you need it, you take the English class and then finish your schedule with 2 general education courses, tier 2s. That will get you a perfectly good schedule that moves everything you need forward. And then once you're here, everything else, including spring semester, we'll work on when you're here. So that concludes kind of what you need to do in the ITS degree. If you continue watching this video, you'll see that we'll jump back and do the same thing for games and animations. So by all means, keep watching if you're interested in that. But otherwise, this concludes the information we have for you for this session. Please, join the Discord. Jump on that the URL's on the screen for the main page. Jump on the Discord, join us there, and ask us as many questions as you want. We'll try to get you answers beyond what's in this video. Use the website as your resource. We'll be updating that, adding more information beyond what you saw in this video. So if it looks a bit different from what you saw here, that's because we're adding information as we go. So I'm glad you're with us. I look forward to seeing you in the fall. Stay safe until then. And any problems with getting registered, please let us know. Okay, so hopefully you've either been watching the ITS degree presentation and now looking for the game's animation information, or you fast forwarded and rejoined us. So welcome back. Let's jump into the specifics for the game's animation degree. And so let's jump on over to that page. So the in the games animation degree, first of all, you are obviously going to have to kind of figure out which of the 2 degree options, games or animation, you're most interested in. And we'll go through 2 plans of study here, one for each of these 2 sides. Your first step here is look at which learning community you may already be registered into, or register for one if you haven't yet. It will give you 3 classes and get you, plus the 1-hour seminar. And once you've done that, you'll have a great start into a schedule, and then you can fit in the remaining classes. So the right now, and this may change, and if it does, we'll update the web page. So by all means, check back in there if you need to. Right now, there are 4 learning communities for the games animation degree. Well, actually, for all the School of Media attached degrees, with different combinations of courses. 2 of them incorporate the introduction of virtual reality. So if you're interested in game design, highly recommend that you do that. But obviously, even if you're more interested in the animation side, no reason not to. The other ones have more of a general communications background class in the comm studies. These are different prefixes, COMM versus COMS. All of these fulfill different general education requirements. All of the learning communities put you in Media 1010, which is the introductory class, background class for all media degrees, including games and animation. and then add one more general education course, music, another media class, sociology, or plant biology, depending on which one you're most interested in. If you're in learning communities A and B with the virtual reality class, there is a separate, non-attached, a separate lab class, COM 1200L. So once you're in the learning community, your next step will be to register for an appropriate section 1 that suits you in terms of time of 1200L. You have to do that separately. You're not going to be prompted. You're already in COM 1200. Go ahead and sign up for 1200L. So once you're in your learning community, you've got all that set up, you've added to your COM 1200 class, then you want 2 more classes to fill your schedule. We suggest that, first of all, look and see if you need your Tier 1 math still. If you don't have AP credit, you don't have a college credit plus credit, go ahead and take your Tier 1 math, if that's as your starting point. And then, depending on whether you do that or not, fill out your schedule with Tier 2 classes. Because of the classes that are already in learning community, if you're in learning communities A or B, look for cross-cultural perspective, humanities, natural sciences, or social science classes. If you're in learning communities C or D, you'll want to look for cross-cultural perspective, fine arts, or natural sciences. A little bit more detail on Tier 2 for your consideration. We think the VR class is a good one to take. So if you don't take in the fall, if it's not part of your learning community, set that aside and maybe try to take that at a later time. In fine arts, if you're not in the learning community and contains Media 2701, you're not taking music, we recommend that maybe you look at Media 2701. In humanities literature, if you have COMS 1010, that's where it fits in. But if you don't in your learning community, public speaking, COMS 1030 would be a good choice. So by the time you see this video, the web page probably will have changed already, because we'll put some more recommendations in here. So once you've watched the video, please go back to the website, and there'll be more information. There'll be updated information. The site will change a little bit as we go through the month, and so it'll look a bit different than it did in this video, which we made right at the beginning once we created the website. So what we'll do now is we'll go through separately 2 plans of study, one focused on game design and virtual reality, and one focused on animation. Right, so let's jump into the plan of study for games and virtual reality. Over on the right-hand side, you'll kind of see the structure of the classes in the major you're expected to take. There are 4 core courses. There's 1 course out of a number of topics that all incorporate global impact of media. There are 4 classes that make up the game design core. You take 1 elective, and finally take a capstone course. That can be one of several. You take 3 courses. In 3 additional courses, either in media, in information telecommunication systems, or in the VR, which has right now is in the COMM prefix. And you have to take 10 courses from 3 different areas for a total of 30 credit hours outside of the School of Media. So that's the structure of the degree in more detail. Over on the left here, before I get to the details, you'll see there are a couple of options. we've laid out courses that make sense for you to take if you want to focus on VR, and in fact, we've built some of those into the course of study, but you don't have to do that. Some students get a computer science minor. Remember that you do need the more advanced math for that. You have the option of doing an ITS minor, Information Telecommunication Systems minor. And again, if you're more on the content creation side, you can certainly look at classes in fine arts or even get an art minor. So with that, let's take just a quick look to wrap up at the. Let me just bring this up a little bit high at the how you start. All right, so all of no matter what choices you make later on, you'll take Media 1010, which gets you the kind of the historical background on the world of media. We recommend that you take 1200 if it's in your learning community, of course. Otherwise, you'll do that later. You'll depending on your learning community, you'll take another class that fulfills a tier 2. You'll be in the learning community class. You need to sign up for the lab that goes with COM 1200 if through your learning community. Otherwise, you're in it. We obviously suggest you take a tier 2 class and either a second one or your tier 1 quantitative skills class. One other option we always point out is if you have not done any scripting whatsoever and you're going to head into game design, you may want to slot in a course, ITS 1800, which is a scripting class and an introductory class meant for someone who's actually never done scripting before. There are other options downstream that actually get you fully into scripting, but if you kind of need a primer, having not done it ever before, you might find that to be a useful class. And again, for right now, all you focus on is getting yourself a good fall schedule. Once you have that, you'll work with your advisor. Once you're here, and spring on out, you'll work very differently and with a lot more time to do the planning. So just focus on getting a meaningful set of classes for your fall schedule. Right. So if games and animation is what you had wanted to do, then you can kind of fast forward to the end of the video. What we're going to do here is jump into the animation degree and take a look at its structure. If your focus is animation, over on the right-hand side, you'll see the structure of the degree. 4 core courses. One course that covers some aspect of global impact of media. You'll take 4 core courses in animation. You'll pick one elective out of a number of options. You will take an option, one capstone course out of these 2 options right now. There may be others in the future. And of course, the advisor can approve other choices there as well. You will take 3 courses from either additional media courses, information telecommunication systems courses, or virtual reality courses in the COMM prefix. And then you finish your requirements by taking 10 courses for a total of 30 credit hours from 3 separate areas, one of which is outside of the College of Communications. So that could be, for example, business classes. Some of the options that you have for related options are shown over on the right. There are some classes you could take if you wanted to dive into virtual reality further. There are options to take minors, and for the animation degree, one of the popular ones is an art minor. But you can do other things as well. For example, you could complete a business degree. Right. So we have covered general information for all students, the information telecommunication systems degree, the games and animation degree with a focus on game design and virtual reality, and the games animation degree with a focus on animation. So hopefully that one of those three is where we're primarily looking, or it gave you some information on how to make comparisons between them. I want to wrap up here by saying thank you for sticking with me through this video, and remind you again of our Discord links, specifically the ECT Discord, but also the one for the Bobcat Esports Club, and if that is something you're interested in. And obviously, on our webpage, you can find all of the faculty members, and on our faculty and staff page, you can find the different faculty members, our staff, find their emails, and get in touch with us that way as well. So with that, I will wrap up here. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and hope to be in touch with you soon.